Taking regular breaks is the most overlooked tool when it comes to getting more done. By now, everyone knows how important diet, sleep, and exercise is when it comes to maximizing performance. But taking breaks is still usually seen as something you only do to rest. If you're new here, my name is Jarle, and on Early Owl, we learn how to get more done by working less. So in this video, I'll go through how this mindset about breaks is wrong and how we should think about breaks. And then I'll go through some of the benefits to taking breaks and how I think they apply to basically anyone. And lastly, I'll go through some tips on how you should work on incorporating breaks into your own life. I've talked about taking breaks on this channel before, and I've also had several conversations with people about this. And what often comes up is that they do kind of agree that it would be good for their mental health or that it would be good for their stress levels, but they feel like they have too much to do or they don't have the time to take more breaks. And that is the thing I hope to kind of send a message about in this video, that we should stop thinking about breaks as like productivity and getting things done on the one hand, and then taking it easy or having a rest on the other, and you kind of trade in one to get more of the other. In reality, I think taking a break is something that you do to get more done, and you should think about taking a break every now and again as a part of your work and something you're doing for the sake of being able to produce more. Obviously, it has a ton of benefits when it comes to improving your mental health, reducing stress, and just feeling better throughout the day. But I think we can just put all those benefits to the side and still make the case that taking breaks is good just for your overall performance. This graph illustrates the point quite well. This is the attention span of students over the course of a lecture. The specifics will vary depending on the situation, but I think the general point remains true. When you're taking a break, you're trading in kind of a small amount of low productivity time. And what you gain from that is a significant boost to efficiency over a longer period of time. Just imagine what this graph looks like when it's an entire day of no breaks. So how do breaks help you get more done? Let's just say there is a factory worker who every 60 seconds has to do a simple task. In this scenario, they can't improve their output because it only happens once every 60 seconds. It's a very simple task, so there's no quality to it. Like, they're not going to do it wrong and they can't do it well. There is no room for learning or creativity because it's the same task every time. Now, in this specific case, I imagine breaks would still be quite important for this person's sanity, but it's one example where breaks would not make them more productive. But neither would anything else, really. Output is the first thing that taking more breaks can help with. Even if your task is quite repetitive and simple, your motivation and how focused you are is still going to have a pretty big impact on how much you can or can't get done. And having more breaks makes it easier to stay motivated and stay focused so you can get more done. And the increase in output becomes even more noticeable if you're dealing with a task that is not just execution, but also has either some complex decision making or you need to solve some more difficult problem. Quality is something that you also get from taking breaks, but I think it's a bit harder to notice or appreciate than an increase in output. And it goes in both ways. So on the one hand, it's about avoiding mistakes and avoiding kind of doing a bad job. And on the other hand, it's about doing a good job and creating or doing something well. Pretty much anything can have a quality to it. There's the obvious example when you are creating something and the main output is the body of your work, then you can make something that is good or something that is less good. But even if you're just talking to a customer or sending an email to a colleague or taking an order or doing some administrational task, there is a way to do it well, and then there's also a lot of room for mistakes. And I think taking regular breaks both increases the quality of your work and prevents mistakes. For output and quality, the main effect is that you take the break and then you're kind of able to reap the rewards of that while you're working. And while you get some of that with creativity, the main benefit you have from creativity is during the break. It makes you more creative and makes you more able to find good solutions to anything that requires new or creative ideas. And I mean creativity in the broadest sense here. Obviously, you have the example of an artist who needs to come up with some new idea of what they're making. But creativity applies in any situation where you need to think about what to do, and a better idea can lead to a better result. The stereotypical example of breaks improving creativity is showering. While I was doing research for this video, I stumbled over a bunch of articles saying, studies show that 72% of us get our best ideas in the shower. But digging a bit deeper, I saw that the actual claim was that 72% of people have recently had an idea or thought through a problem in the shower. And it's not a result from an actual published study, but from a survey ran by a showerhead manufacturer. Just a quick digression on why you should take these kind of articles and headlines with a grain of salt. But the main point still stands that it's the well-established meme that taking a shower is a good place for idea generation and creativity. And this isn't because there's anything magical about spraying water on ourselves, but I think taking a shower is one of the few places that most people are kind of forced to spend some time without any stimulation and without anything else to do, and just kind of let their mind wander. And you can tap into the same form of creativity by taking other forms of breaks. I did also stumble across another article about this that recommended 8-hour showers for entrepreneurs, which, don't do that. With learning, you get a lot of benefits on both ends. First of all, taking breaks makes you more focused and makes you able to get through more material. But equally importantly, or maybe even more importantly, the actual learning of what you're trying to learn doesn't only happen when you're kind of sitting down and studying or sitting down and practicing. It also happens while you're resting and while you're taking a break. So this is why it's crucial not just to sit down and study for 12 hours and think that that's how you learn. You also need to make sure you get enough sleep, obviously, and then also make sure you take breaks. There's two variables of how to take breaks. One is the interval or timing, and the other is what you do during the break. When it comes to the interval, I think the shortest end of the spectrum would be the Pomodoro technique, where you do 25 minutes of focused work and then 5 minutes of break. And on the other end of the spectrum, I've seen some people suggest that the sleep cycles we experience throughout the night of like 90 to 120 minutes continue on in the day. So we have kind of periods of higher focus and lower focus that go on a cycle of 90 to 120 minutes. So you need to experiment and find out what works for you, but I would keep my sessions roughly within this time frame of working from half an hour to about 2 hours and a break of like 5 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how long you worked. For me personally, I do 10-minute breaks about every hour, which works fine. But I think naturally I'm a bit more inclined to longer work periods. The second question is what you should do during breaks. The main thing you're looking for is to do something where you can just let your mind wander, and you're doing something that does not require a lot of attention, it does not give you any form of stress, or does not give you a lot of stimulation. I also believe there's some benefit to having some light activity involved. So the best breaks would be something like taking a walk, doing some stretches, or maybe doing like a simple chore like folding laundry or taking things out of the dishes. And doing this without any stimulation. So no music, so no listening to podcasts, just being alone with your mind doing the break. And I would recommend getting at least 2 or 3 of these types of breaks per day. As long as you get some of those breaks a day, you can do a bit more stimulating things in your other breaks, like listening to music or podcast, or maybe reading a chapter of a book, or even watching a YouTube video. But then you're starting to get into a bit more thin ice. What you want to avoid with breaks is doing anything that is too close to the work you're doing right now, or anything that can lead to kind of an open loop or something that you're thinking about that you can't solve right away. So if you're opening up social media or opening up emails, you might see things that kind of distract you from the break, but you can't solve them. So it's just gonna distract you when you get back to work. Also, anything that can leave you too emotionally hyped up or stressed. So while I said it might be okay to, for example, listen to a podcast, you don't want to listen to a podcast about, say, some political subject that you care a lot about. And if you listen to it, you're going to get riled up or stressed or emotional. You also want to avoid anything that is too addictive or too stimulating. Obviously, this applies to most games and most websites or social media, but this can also apply to just a book that you're really into. If you're going to read a chapter in your break and there's a risk that you feel like reading one more and reading one more, or you're going to think about what's going to happen next when you get back from your break, then that is probably not the best idea to do during a short break. Taking breaks is one of the habits I try to do regularly. If you like this video, I'll include a playlist about some of my other habits. And hopefully I've convinced some of you to think of breaks not just as something you do for yourself, but something you do for the sake of whatever you're trying to accomplish as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Wednesday.